and now there's a subscription economy. And I have a feeling you guys are going to talk about subscriptions today. That's my gut. So I'm going to pass it over to you guys. Introduce yourselves. What do you do at the companies? And how do you drive subs? And how do you fight churn?
Sounds good. Jesse, you want to start?
I'll see you in half an hour.
Thanks, Pete.
Bye.
I do, but I want to fix my background given, oh no, it is backwards for me, not for everyone else. Sorry.
Yep.
Just throwing me off.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Jesse Laskaris. I lead our performance marketing, data operations, and technology team for Disney Streaming. I support our media buying, creative, commerce teams, kind of with a bunch of capabilities, data, and kind of functions, everything from audiences, ad tech and martech, traditional operations, legal and privacy and security, and then a bunch of different kind of strategic services like synergy, go-to-market, global, and some partner roadmaps as well.
Just a couple things, just a few things.
Just a few.
Awesome, thanks for that. Well, I'm Tim Smith. I'm the general manager of global client development at the Trade Desk, and I help to help our largest advertisers develop their programmatic strategies. So, well, thanks everybody for joining today's session. Jesse, thank you for graciously lending your time to give your perspective on marketing leadership from the lens of the world's fastest growing streaming service, Disney+. So we've really seen so much great content, emphasis on data and digital transformation by Disney over the past few years. So I'm super excited to dig in with you on what marketing leadership means to Disney+, what it means to you, and hear about all the ways that you've helped drive it within the organization and on your team. So let's dive in. For all marketers, really the last 2 years have been this incredible time of transformation for their industries and the ways they reach their audiences. And so much of this change is being felt in the TV space with this accelerated shift to streaming. Our Future of TV report that was published in June of this year found that 60% of adults aged 18 to 34 don't subscribe to cable, and 80% of that same demographic are streaming content on a weekly basis. So can you tell us a little bit about Disney Plus leading this charge and delivering CTV experiences and how you think about telling your story to prospective subscribers?
Yeah. And obviously, I think the answer is a little different. Obviously, Disney Plus is global, which I think we're going to hit on a little bit. So there are some obviously regional nuances. But I mean, I think in general, obviously with the shift to streaming and obviously accelerated because of the pandemic, there is Disney Plus and Disney Streaming, which is really Disney Plus, ESPN Plus. We recently launched Star Plus in Latin America. Obviously, there is the service itself and obviously all the great content that the Walt Disney Company kind of powers. But as a marketer, there's the how do you talk to consumers about those services and get them to sign up and obviously drive growth. So obviously, I'm not going to hit on just broader kind of content and the shift to streaming as a consumer, but focus on marketing. I mean, for us at least, and I'm sure other services feel the same or kind of go through similar challenges. There are a million different services out there, and so how to kind of cut through the noise, how to whether it's about cutting the cord, it's about why we're better or unique than someone else, and then where to really find those people and what's the right time to talk to them about it. Not everybody's going to see an ad and immediately go and subscribe. There's different preferences on viewership, and most people watch our services on smart TV. Obviously, we want to engage people on services, kind of connected devices. In many cases, we have to have longer conversations around the different content that we're launching, where mobile is way more effective. And obviously, our ability to sign people up is better on a mobile device than it is on filling out all the information on our kind of sign up flow is difficult on a connected device. So obviously, trying to get people onto the devices where signing up is more seamless is a huge preference for us as well. So it's really balancing kind of talking about the products in a way that differentiates talking about it on the preferred device or the best medium. Obviously, I think video and kind of dynamic type creative is a better way to showcase our creative, and just bringing all that together in a way that makes it most relevant for consumers to learn about our products and content.
That's great. I really like that concept of having a longer conversation because, yeah, signing up for a streaming service often takes time. It's not one display ad that's going to get somebody to sign up. So yeah, that's super interesting to hear.
We wish it was that easy, but it's not.
It's not always that easy. So the market seemingly changes on a daily basis, programmatic, digital, it's all changing every day. How do you think about that, and how do you prioritize your areas of focus across data, operations, technology, and the 5 other things that are part of your remit?
You know, I try to kind of take a 10,000 foot kind of, overview of it, and then obviously kind of deploy my teams as well as develop the right kind of internal and external partnerships and kind of key focus areas. And it's not as clean as the way I'm about to describe it, obviously, but to keep it more simple, it's a lot. I generally try to look at things both in one lens of looking at our go-to-market process, strategy and insights, activation and optimization, and then analytics. And obviously, there's a million things that go into each one of those. But as you kind of break those apart, and I look at the tech stack that powers those things, when I look at the data needed to generate rich insights or to target or to optimize or to measure effectiveness, there are hundreds of moving pieces that exist underneath there. And really, one, there's trying to standardize as much as possible so that we can support all the different streaming products, support them globally as best we can, navigate external factors like privacy and cookie deprecation and all those types of things. And then really, how can we lean in with our partners to take on, some of the either heavy lift of engaging with those consumers in a way, helping us optimize, coming up with creative ways of measuring things, and just, figuring out the right balancing act between all of those.
Yeah. That's great to hear. I think, one of the other things that we talked a little bit about, and you mentioned a little bit as it pertains to mobile becoming more of a factor for you guys, is the pandemic has obviously accelerated shifts of consumer preferences. So the shift to streaming, people listening to more podcasts and spending more time on their mobile and tablet devices. So how have you guys refocused your efforts towards different channels, or have you updated your media mix at all to kind of reflect the changes in consumer preferences?
Yeah, I mean, we are constantly testing, new channels, new partners, new capabilities, tactics, et cetera. I mean, we do have kind of our bread and butter, in terms of kind of channels, and they're the usual mix. Obviously, we are still very D2C focused, and so obviously we work really closely with other areas of the business that are doing more branding or kind of awareness type media and marketing, but we are really kind of hitting medium to lower funnel partners, tactics, et cetera. And so within the kind of 5 primary channels that we operate within, again, constant testing, audio, new affiliates, we're constantly trying to rearrange the mix because we are so laser focused on critical kind of data-driven KPIs that we need to get creative. And when something doesn't work, we want to figure out what we can reallocate to very quickly to make sure that budget's as effective as possible and we're hitting our numbers.
Yeah, that's great. I love the term data-driven here at the Trade Desk. It's one that we talk about a lot, so great to hear. I think, how does data play a role in your team's planning and execution processes? And then how do you think about measuring the impact of your marketing? Obviously, you're trying to drive subscriptions, but there's getting people interested in Disney Plus if they don't know about it. How do you balance all of that?
Yeah, obviously we have, Disney as a whole has a very kind of a great, customer base in general, and there's so many consumer touch points. So obviously, like the the Walt Disney Company brand, carries significant weight, I think, with most consumers, most families, most households. And so a lot riding that wave is important to us. And so as we look at data, obviously we want to look at, things like existing relationship to, Disney as a whole, some type of engagement either of our content. And again, like we're putting trailers out, there's a lot of different consumer touch points, even as we focus about Disney streaming content or the services themselves. But again, a similar version also applies for ESPN Plus and others, just different focus, but I'll stick with Disney Plus for now. We use all the information, kind of traditional sources, for planning, competitive insights, kind of the normal tools and resources there. We look, within our own four walls of Disney to kind of look at areas there. And then just given where, Disney Plus has been launched for, coming up on 2 years now, at least in the US. And as we think about rolling out globally, there's a lot that we can do in terms of best practices, both in terms of rollouts, best practices, tactics, how to work with certain partners, and try to transcribe that into a global go-to-market plan as well. So we are really looking across everything. And then from an, kind of a targeting and optimization perspective, like, again, we are very data-driven. We're leaning into engagement metrics, lookalike models, what our again, how to really lean in with our partners to help us, drive really effective campaigns to, obviously grow our services, hit certain benchmarks. Obviously we want to look at, cost per acquisition, engagement rates, frequency capping. For markets where we're more mature, we obviously want to prevent churn. There's a variety of different metrics that we're looking at that all have a variety of different data sources that can help power, what we do and how we do it.
So it sounds like there's just constant evolution, constant testing, constant utilization of data, all great things to hear. I think I want to touch on something that you said earlier around part of your remit is handling privacy and identity. And I think we could probably agree that that's been all the rage for the past 12 to 18 months. And so I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about the next steps you and your team are taking to ensure success if and when cookies go away, and if there's any tech or testing or best practices you're putting into place to prepare for that front.
Yeah, absolutely. My team leads, we're just calling our future-proofing strategy. And, I think back prior to iOS 14 being rolled out, I think there was a lot of panic going on, as probably most other brands and marketers and partners were all trying to go through and understand what that impact was going to be. What we did is we did a pretty comprehensive audit of, again, our data ecosystem, our platform ecosystem. We looked at our use of data, whether it be first, second, or third, throughout, the full go-to-market process. And what we found, for good or for bad, is, how we use data, what our overall goals are in terms of engaging with, essentially prospects and converting them into Disney Plus or ESPN Plus customers. We found that we were not as exposed as many other brands. I mean, there were some areas that obviously we had to tweak and obviously comply with, but what we found is the sky was not falling. And what that allowed for, thankfully, is that, one, more time. We did not have to make any kind of knee-jerk reactions, and we could really research, test, and really kind of put together the right types of roadmaps. Now, things can always change, and you never know what's going to come down. But we are looking at, in terms of how we use first-party data, we are looking at different ways of getting that into the marketplace, making sure we're talking about persistent identities and not just targeting. We're really, in all honesty, ramping down the use of third-party data for what we want to do in our strategy. It's just not just not a commodity we necessarily really need to utilize to the extent that it's been used in the past or, across the industry. And, I think the part that we're really trying to figure out now, I think, and for us is the biggest priority is around analytics. Irrespective of what type of methodology you utilize, and many of us use many of them, we've found and believe that is where we are the most exposed, and we're really trying to figure out the best solution for us in terms of, again, the channels that we operate within, the partners that we use, and then the overall data availability to make sure that we can optimize and measure effectiveness. So on the targeting side, again, we feel pretty good, although we are constantly testing new solutions. We are doubling down in terms of figuring out a long-term solution as it relates to analytics for us.
And I have to imagine that there's definitely nuances across the globe as well as you are launching Disney Plus all over the world.
Absolutely.
I think that's a good segue, because obviously it's been a really exciting time for you and for Disney Plus with the continued global expansion. So yeah, I'd love for you to give any context you can around how the international launches are going and any highlights or learnings that you can share.
Yeah, I mean, we've, Disney Plus, I can't even remember the number of countries, probably, I think we're in the 60s now. This past year, we have been aggressively rolling out, across the globe, across all, we've been in Europe for a while. I think we have a couple more countries to launch there. In next week, we're launching in Japan and some other APAC regions. Over the spring and summer, we both rolled out into Latin America as well as launched a new standalone service, Star Plus. So we've been really expanding, at least for the areas that I own and focus on. When I think of our tech stack, how we use data, I generally, in a perfect world, there is one global tech stack that just works equally everywhere. The reality is that's not possible, whether it be legal and privacy reasons, partner availability, any number of things. And what we really try to do, both at the region level, and in some cases, usually because of privacy laws, the country level, we try to figure out the right ratio of global to local.
Yep.
And in some countries, that could be 90-10, 80-20, or something super hyper local. But we generally try to balance all of those things to obviously drive scale, drive efficiencies, whether it be in terms of contracting or, we work with we don't have any agencies, so we work directly with all of our partners so that, the lead times, contracting, for getting privacy reviews of things, for standing up campaigns and ads. So we are, every part of our marketing organization is trying to figure out how to scale globally, in the most effective way possible. But I think we've done a really great job. Obviously, there's always some nuances, but just the sheer amount of countries in such a short amount of time that everybody has been able to kind of launch really well and hit our numbers has been, I think, a testament to the Disney streaming growth team.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 60 plus countries is no small feat in the span of 2 years. So kudos to you guys for that. I really also like that kind of balance of templatized as a holistic global strategy versus localized. Because as you said, it would be great if everything worked the same across every single country and region in the world. That's just not how it works. And so interesting to hear about how you guys have kind of balanced templatized and global strategy versus localized. I think a successful global rollout can often be attributed to also how you navigate your global organization. So how have you been able to get buy-in from key executives at Disney Plus on the expansion strategy and then execute it successfully across all the markets?
Yeah, we have an interesting org structure where everyone within our kind of global COE framework is US based, primarily in New York and LA. And then we work really closely with our kind of global partner leads. So we have folks in Europe and Australia and Argentina that kind of think about both the region as well as the individual countries. And we've developed, I think prior to most of the planning around where Disney Plus is going to roll out to, a very strong partnership and operating model has been established. And then it's really up to all the leads to kind of champion it for their specific area. For, again, speaking only to what I own and not necessarily my counterparts, a lot of that has been through education. A lot of the areas that my team owns is highly nuanced, highly technical. We've established, again, frameworks, relationships with legal and privacy to kind of navigate all of the global privacy laws and things, and local things on those local business units' behalf. We are providing a service to them so that they can focus on marketing strategy, and we handle the nuts and bolts behind the scene to power, either stand up a capability, to power a campaign. And so I think they see, through education and partnership, we've really been able to kind of, provide them the, to feel good that we are going to support their country launch or regional launch in a way that they don't really need to help. And if anything, it's really when I need their help. Maybe there's something that's happening in Argentina or Tokyo that I am not going to be able to get done, or my team's not going to be able to get done. And that's where we really partner together on those things that are very specific to the region that they can own.
So lots of early morning calls and late night calls for you, it sounds like.
Yes. Peaks and valleys, but generally, yes.
Yeah. So one thing I want to go back to that you mentioned, Disney obviously as an overarching company has so much brand equity built up from being around for as long as everybody knows and can remember. It's such a massive org with all these different lines of business across parks, studios, media networks, consumer products, and now streaming. So what have you learned through your interaction with those other parts of the company that have been around longer than Disney Plus that's helped you drive efficiency and innovation at Disney Plus?
Yeah, I mean, when I look at, say, like Disney parks and products and studios, they've been around forever. Disney streaming is kind of a baby compared to, how long these other business units have been up and running, established, and everything. So I think they've had the luxury of many years, and in many cases, many decades of getting, their business right, and for me, that's their tech stack, their data strategy, customer touch points. They've had such a long time to kind of test into, learn, and really refine what they want. And so I work very closely. We have kind of cross business unit forums, and one day when we can all get together in person, workshops and summits where, and for me, it's tech, it's data, privacy and legal, the really fun stuff there. But we help each other navigate. And in many cases, even though they're farther along in some areas, their processes are slower. And so, given how fast we have to grow, Disney streaming sometimes can lead the way in certain areas. And so we do identify key partner areas for, say, parks to tackle and Disney streaming to kind of fast follow, or vice versa. Let me go test a partner or launch something, and then I can ensure that studios is able to leverage it afterward. And so we do our best. Obviously, everybody has different goals and and timelines, staffing, and nuances, but we try our best to really kind of partner together, share wins, explain roadblocks and other watch outs, and really help each other navigate. But I think we all bring something to the table, either kind of legacy or proven tactics, or in other cases, the ability to move faster. Each has a benefit.
That's great. So it sounds like there's a lot of collaboration, also a little bit of divide and conquer. You take this, I'll take that. That's really great to hear. And probably been challenging over the last 18 months, not seeing each other in person, but hopefully we're going to be there soon where we can all sit in a room together. But
Yes.
I want to pivot the conversation to kind of the last topic, because we really can't talk about marketing leadership without addressing this whole work from home environment that we've all experienced since March of 2020. Knowing that that's around the time you started, how's it been building a team remotely, and how has remote work been an opportunity for you and your team?
Yeah, great question, because I think my situation is really unique in that I had started the recruitment process before kind of the lockdown. My first day was March 16th, when pretty much all the offices were closed. So I got a call Friday, the day before. I didn't take any time off, and got a call saying, "Hey, we're actually shipping you your laptop. You have a call with IT at 9 in the morning." And Disney had not really formalized its remote onboarding. So I got to be kind of the guinea pig a bit in my whole new hire class. That being said, as a leader, I was the first. I was hired to then build out my team, and so I've had a variety of functions and headcount open up, and it's been done, I think, with the exception of one person who I knew prior to Disney. We had to do everything remotely, and it adds quite a challenge to things that you would normally be able to interview, to pick up, and meeting someone face to face. And so I think fully building a team at, me never being really in the office myself, and being able to talk to candidates about culture, the Disney streaming culture, and what it will theoretically be like when we go back to the office has been difficult, I think, also. And then just finding the right people to meet the needs of your team. I think, both their skill sets and, where they're coming from and all that, but I think also trying to find the right fit for remote work at the company that you're hiring for. Everybody has every company has a different policy or a different way, or and I think trying to figure out and pull out like that type of information, or how understanding a candidate's preferences on certain things, and can they navigate well on Zooms, back-to-back Zooms for 8 hours a day. Hopefully not everybody has to deal with that. And it's just made things quite interesting over the past 18 months, or however long it's been since I've joined.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys have been able to hire and explain the culture over Zoom and things like that. But how have you thought about staying connected as a group? So once you've explained what the culture is, how do we actually implement that without being in an office every day? What have you done?
I mean, I don't know if this is the best answer, but it's something I've been trying to do. Is just I think where possible, and assuming people are comfortable and obviously kind of navigating those things. I think trying to get in-person get-togethers or happy hour or lunch or whatever it might be, in a way to still drive some degree of camaraderie, and whether it be specific team culture or organizational culture, keeping everybody, so that I think there's that, just to build connection. I think not being in the office, and as it relates to kind of like the functional role that somebody's in, I mean, makes it difficult. I find, again, being in back-to-back Zooms, that, where you would normally pop by somebody's desk and, give a quick update that takes, 2 minutes, now takes a 30-minute touch base on a calendar, which can delay things. And so figuring out, I think, more streamlined communication, and it doesn't always have to be formal. It can be a team Slack channel. It could be a group text, whatever. But just kind of being able to provide relevant info so that everybody does feel connected, even when they're not there in person or in that meeting or whatever it might be. But just figuring out those lines, I think, are, not anyone is a single self, but doing a combination of many things is really the right answer, at least that I found.
Yeah, it's definitely forced us all to be super creative about how we engage and share information. So I appreciate that context, and that's super helpful. I think to wrap us up, I'd love to hear from you about what you're most excited about in the next 6 to 12 months at Disney Streaming, and if there's any new projects or things you're working on that the marketers on the line can learn from.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've been very launch focused. We talked about all the countries that we've been rolling out to, but that will slow down, for good or for bad. And so I think we've all been, laser focused on successful launches, less so about really innovative or step change marketing tactics. And, we balance, we have to balance it. And so, as you're kind of like ramping up for a market launch, you kind of have to pause other things. Hopefully the ramp ups will not be as steep, and we kind of have more kind of like peaks and valleys that really focused on content launches. Obviously, we have a huge slate of Star Wars and Marvel and all the other sources of content that we have, where we can actually focus on talking to our, again, either existing customers or prospects about that content in new, whether it be new creative formats or new channels or new partners, and really kind of test innovative marketing versus just standardized market launches. So for me, that's really not to say that market launches aren't important. It's just what gets me excited is, trying to think about marketing and tactics and uses of data and technology.
Yeah, and if I remember from last November, there's just a few things, new pieces of content coming out over the next 3 to 5 years. If I remember, just a few, maybe 50 plus or something, shows and movies coming out. So, is there one that you're particularly excited for yourself?
I just love all the Star Wars series. So, Book of Boba Fett, and, it's probably the main one, at least for this year, for me.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for that context. I think we have about 5 or 6 minutes left. So there's a couple questions from the audience that I'd love to dive into, if that's all right with you.
Sure.
Awesome. So first one is, how are you marrying digital measurement and bottom line revenue metrics to prove the value of mid-funnel tactics to prove that you need to have longer conversations with customers?
Ooh, okay. We do a variety of things on the analytics front, and I'm going to try to do a good job, although I have counterparts on our analytics team who could probably do a way better job of explaining the how. But we look at a variety of different, and I think I hinted at it before. We have a bunch of different focus areas and data sources that we look at, and obviously it's the very tactical info around subscriptions and subscription volume, cost per acquisition. And obviously we're always trying to balance those. And those are kind of like, our true bottom line things, and, what we're goaled off of and what our executives care the most about. I think when we look at, and this is one of the areas we're looking to try to do more in, is full funnel engagement, full funnel metrics. And, we have not really tied everything together, from what our brand team is doing and all the way down through a conversion. And so I think we're not there yet, but we are looking at, with both our activation partners, but also how we construct our measurement ecosystem of the future, of being able to tie together all the different consumer touch points, and kind of figure out how best to kind of connect them, and glean insights to then inform future tactics. So kind of answering the question, but not too detailed, so I apologize.
No, it's great. You talked a little bit about your measurement of the future, and we've talked a little bit about future of identity, future of privacy. I guess outside of those things, what do you see as the next big shift in the digital landscape, and how are you preparing for it at DSS?
I think there's the balance of trying to see through the hype versus the tactical reality, both of the industry, of digital media and D2C tactics, but also, again, mapping it to our strategy, our data, our partners and channels. And what we found is a lot of the things being talked about absolutely influence certain channels, but not others. And so I think we have to rationalize single stack versus hybrid stack. The role of, is identity. And again, like we can probably have a whole hour conversation of what does identity mean? And, but what does identity mean in media? And what does it mean for Disney? And obviously, like we are going to try to put together our POV on what that means and then what it means for our business. And so I think identity is, I just don't know whose version of identity we're necessarily going to go with. And again, how pervasive it's going to be across strategy and planning, acquisition and optimization and measurement, because I can go to my counterparts in other business units. They have all a different perspective than I do. And then we can talk, each, the partners, the use of data, et cetera. Identity means different things across all of those. And so just really trying to navigate how to bring it all together into one strategy and tech and data ecosystem.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you guys are thinking about this from just being agile and test and learn. If you can stay nimble and you can constantly test, then you're probably in a good spot to navigate whatever the future does bring. So that's super great to hear. I guess last question for me, Jesse, I know you've got a few young kids at home. What's currently streaming on Disney Plus in your household? I know you're waiting for the new Star Wars stuff, but what's on currently?
They have binged all the good stuff, or not to say that there's anything, all the stuff that I like, all the Star Wars, all Marvel, a lot of the Pixar. I mean, they are down to a lot of the kind of like Disney television type series that are all on there. So not tied to a major studio house. So, Turner and Hooch and a couple of the others like that, but a lot of the remakes as well.
Muppets are coming out, right? Are Muppets out now, or they're coming out like next week? Haunted House, the Haunted Mansion.
That is, I think this weekend. I don't know the exact date.
I mean, I'm a Gen Xer, so the Muppets are my game here. I just want to wrap it up again because another great session with two major companies. First, I want to give Jesse kudos because you start a job at the onset of a pandemic. You got to build a team while you're sanitizing your vegetables. And you got to get subs, right? And you got to drive subs, which is like the game right now, right? So I think, again, to wrap up what you guys were talking about, educating the consumer, it is very noisy out there. So you got to educate it. You got to stand out. You got to be patient, test. But, you have earnings calls coming up. So patience is only a matter of every quarter. And you got to, right now, like the box office are killing it. It's the subs that they're looking for that drive the stock. Right? Box office are shut down. Basically, parks are closed for the most part. So what you do literally moves people's stocks up and down. So good luck with that.
Yep.
The last piece would be, a mature tech stack matters, right? Understanding how to play the game, but having the tools to play it are really going to be key. And having a partner like Tim can drive that for you. But I think my biggest takeaway for the group, whether you're a consumer of content or a marketer, is that we're still like the second inning of streaming, right? I mean, you're still, Disney Plus is still in launch phase. So there's so much great stuff to come. So to start grading people now really is premature. And we'll leave it at that. If you want to hold your applause to the end, we can do that now. But thanks for your time. We have a new group coming in. I already see their pictures up. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Marla.
Thanks a lot.
From Ford. See you guys. Marla Skiko from Ford. We got Susan Larkin from Odyssey. We'll see when they come in. I think Marla's going to be exciting for us because she lives at the intersection of being a marketer from the agency side. So I'm looking forward to hearing what she has to say as someone who's very curious.